excited!
Me too.
Welcome back to the h.e.r.LIFE BLOGCAST. I'm joined by Brennan Sisco. We met in the RA world. You were my resident. You weren't even mine. You were ours, right?
That was, yeah.
Oh my
I
god.
like both of yours.
It was kind of like an overlap.
Mm-hmm.
The RA bubble has really just defined this podcast genuinely, because I feel like nobody has been outside of our reach. Like every guest is somehow related to South that first year.
It's so crazy too to think, like, as I'm going into my senior year, like, you were one of the first people I've ever met at Fordham, and look at us now.
Stop. I genuinely remember, because I remember I couldn't remember your name, and we were in the lobby, and you were like, I'll give you a hint. It's typically a boy name. And I was like, Brennan. And you were like, see, I'm unique. And I was just like, this chick is the coolest person.
Remember when I came back from my Ribs Boy date, and I just ran into you, Emma, and I think it was Devin? And I was like, guys.
Ribs Boy is such... I've always wanted to do an episode about, like, dates gone wrong, because Devin has good stories, you have a great story. Like, I just feel like that's gonna be a thing. So keep it, hold it, because the world needs to know.
Okay.
I love it so... No, seriously, that's a great story. Ribs Boy, if you're out there, well, look at her now.
Catch me on LinkedIn. I added him and he added me back so quickly. I was like, oh, hello.
There's something about LinkedIn intrigue. Like, there's something very,
Oh yeah, no. Remember, what's it called? My McFadden's Man?
No.
Oh, the one guy, he was like 26, and he was like, oh, how old are you? And I stupidly was like 19. And he was like, okay. Well, I added him on LinkedIn one day, and he added me back. And
Wait, where did you find? You met him at McFadden?
Yes.
And you added him on LinkedIn?
Like, earlier in quarantine, because I was bored and I found him. Yes.
So it was after you had already, like, connected on other socials?
2 years. No, we've never connected on other socials. No.
2 years after meeting this random guy, you add him on LinkedIn.
I was in the mood, and he works for Bloomberg, and I was like, who knows? Maybe I could use him.
That's true. Professional connections, you just need to get them when you can.
Yeah. And
honestly, I respect that a lot.
Yeah.
Connect with Bren on LinkedIn.
But it can't hurt. Maybe in the future, who knows?
No, that's so true. Like, if you get a job out of that, that'd be really freaking cool. That's a good segue, actually. Tell us about what you want to do with give me just the intro, the overview, introduce yourself, give us everything.
So I'm from New Jersey, central New Jersey. It's real. I'm right by the beach. I'm a political science major. I'm trying to take up an American Studies minor, but I'm scared of the dean, and I don't want to argue with him.
Yeah.
Or her. I'm not positive.
I think it's cry, because he made me cry, like, a few times.
Okay.
That's not, like, instilling confidence in you. I'm sorry, but, like, yeah.
No, that's what I expected.
Yeah.
I'm, as of now, looking into law school, but honestly, I've changed my mind so many times. I just know I want to do something in the, like, political, human rights, civil rights kind of realm, whether that's, like, writing or who even knows.
Yeah.
Just something in that realm, hopefully. But I love to debate.
Yeah.
So I feel like law school's the vibe.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
I love that. I feel like law school is one of the things, like, no one regrets going to law school. The only thing is, like, it's so much money.
Oh, it's so much money.
And I see what happens.
Yeah, and I want to stay in the city. Mm-hmm. So it's like, will I get in?
Maybe you'll go Fordham Law.
Oh, God, if only. I wish. Who knows?
You could do it. If there's anyone who could do it, it's you. That's exciting, though. Definitely. And what a cool time to be studying political science. Like, I just feel like what a cool moment. Cool maybe is not the right word. You know what I mean?
I feel like it's an important time to be very politically aware.
Totally.
So in that sense, yes, I just think it's frustrating to see how divided it's become, because there's no way of bringing it back in this moment to not be so divisive.
Yeah.
But
it's just interesting. I don't know. And I think one of my favorite things about you is, like, how, I don't know, I just appreciate how, not outspoken, because you're not, like, in your face about it, but I just like that you, like, know what you believe in and you stick up for it. We had our Killjoy episode. Like, you're definitely a killjoy in that respect, where you, like, call attention to important things. And I think that's just, like, we need more girls like you. I'm just into you.
Thank you. I feel like it's so important. People always are like, women shouldn't say anything, like, blah, blah. And then there's me, and my dad's like, can you just not bring it up? like one family holiday. And I'm like, no.
It's so important. Like, and I think there was a time when I kind of subscribed to that mentality where I was like, oh, does it really matter? Like, keep the peace, brush it under the rug. Like, we're just going to get through Thanksgiving. But I feel like those times are so behind us, especially after this last period of time. I don't know, you know?
I was talking to my mom. We do this big Christmas Eve dinner with my family because we're Italian. So we do like the 7 fishes and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm always in charge of doing the name tags. So I was like, what if I put like, not like a dig or something aggressive, but what if we're a little philanthropic this year if Christmas is a thing and not a thing, that sounds very bad, but like if we can actually have the party, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I pick specific charities and put them on the back of the name tags for each of my family members. So I think I'm going to do that this year and try and not get too feisty because in the past there have been lots of issues with individuals who I feel like I shouldn't name and me, and then my mom getting upset about the butting of heads. So no one can argue that, you know?
Right.
We'll see. Yeah.
I respect it. I think that's a good way. It's like a little subtle nudge, but like with a good, like you're still coming from a great place. That's what I think some people forget. It's like we're on the right side here, you know?
Yeah, and you want to be on the right side of history. You don't want to kind of regret.
Exactly. Well, I'm with you. Same page. I so appreciate you. Keep doing it. We love you. Okay, let's move on into our her reflections of the week. Do you want to kick us off with your happy of the week?
Sure. So my happy of the week is that I'm super happy that I've been getting all of this time with my family. I have been one of those people in quarantine that have legitimately seen no one. I had a little bit of interaction on my birthday because my aunt didn't want me to have like a boring 21st birthday. So I had the whole like family drives by and beeps thing, which I was a little bit overwhelmed with at first, and I was like unprepared and I like was not expecting it, but I was really grateful for it and I kept my distance. Most of us wore masks. I wore a mask. Wear a mask. But then some of my friends from home came over and we all sat 6 feet apart and it was really nice to see people. But since then I have gone to the store, but I haven't like had interactions. So it's been nice to get closer with my parents, especially. I feel like my brother's in that kind of age bracket where he's like, oh, I hate everyone. I'll lay in bed all day. So he's been doing that. But when we got hit by, is it Isaias? Was that the hurricane?
I don't know. I remember hearing it, but like I didn't retain.
So that tropical storm / hurricane hit, and it wasn't that bad. The winds were pretty crazy. And all of these trees went down and all of this power went out. And for some reason, in my town, like we were one of the only neighborhoods to not lose power. But my grandparents did.
Okay.
And they're both on oxygen. So once that ran out, my dad was like, they're coming over. And I hadn't seen them because I've been trying to keep my distance. But it was just so nice to spend that time with them because they're getting a lot older. And like my grandpa's 90, almost 93. Like he's getting up there. And I never get to just sit and talk with my grandma. Usually we're at family holidays and stuff and like everyone's talking at once. So it was so nice to see them and spend that time with her. So I'm glad. Like quarantine sucked. Like, let's be honest, it has not been the best, but being able to see them really brought a sense of serotonin I haven't felt in a while that I was like, okay, it's all right.
So nice. Yeah, it's all about focusing on the silver linings, and that's like definitely a really great one. And like you said, like the one-on-one time where everything is slowed down because it needs to be, and you can just kind of have those very memorable moments. I'm happy for you. That was so like heartwarming to hear. That's a great response. Okay. My happy, I think I'm just happy because I'm starting to maintain relationships a lot better. I think when quarantine started, I definitely kind of distanced myself, especially to a lot of friends from school, because it just made me too sad. And I felt like every conversation was like, oh, we would have been doing senior week stuff this week. We would have been doing this, that, and that. And it just like was too much of a downer. And so I think I I don't even think I meant to do it, but just subconsciously kind of started distancing myself and not like FaceTiming as much and not coming on Zoom calls as much because it just didn't leave me feeling great because it was just sad. But I feel like we're kind of out of that stage. Like the resentment is fading away and we're kind of coming to grips with like everyone's, like we're all struggling. Like, you know what I mean? So I think I've started like getting better at a routine of keeping up with people and calling certain people on certain days and just having nice long catch-ups. Like I talked to one of my friends from high school the other night for hours. Like I was on a walk, he was on a walk, and we just totally caught up, and it just felt so good to be back. Like it felt so normal and we all just needed it, and I felt like everyone kind of exhaled. I did the same thing with Hannah not too long ago. Like it just felt so good. We just needed a big catch-up. So it's definitely something I'm going to be like, do that more because it makes you feel good, you know? I'm happy about it.
No, I'm happy too. I could totally understand the whole feeling upset about missing out on all your stuff, but then you have so much more to look forward to too.
Yeah.
That
Totally.
this all sucks, but
I think especially living in New York, because so many of us are probably going to end up in New York anyway, like because we went to Fordham and we're like used to the city. I think you go to Fordham because you like the city. So there's that kind of in common. I think more so than other schools where people would be more dispersed. We're all kind of probably more or less going to end up in the same place for at least some time. So there's definitely that to look forward to also.
definitely.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard anything about like your senior week festival?
No, I was just talking, I don't know, I have it in my head that they were going to combine it with homecoming, but I really think I made that up. Like, I don't know, that was just what I thought would be like.
I heard Columbus Day weekend or something like that was supposed. Is that in the fall? I don't even know. I could.
Yeah,
just
that's October.
That's when your graduation's supposed to be.
Okay.
But that's also just me hearing it.
That's the thing, yeah. And I'm just like praying that somehow, even if it's like next year and they do kind of a combined senior
I would love that.
That would be cool.
Imagine?
That would be like next. I mean, I don't know if it'd be possible because it's just so many extra people, but also like, what if it happened?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. That's all I have to say.
And like I said, I think enough people would be local enough that it would make it work.
Exactly.
We'll see.
Hopefully by then life is
normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
We'll see. All right. I like it. That'd be really cool though. I'm excited about that. What is your E though? What's your excited?
I'm excited to move into like my first official apartment.
Big. That's big.
Yeah. It'll be nice to be back in the city. I know everyone, like I was talking to Dan and he was telling me how weird it is right now.
Yeah.
With the masks and just Arthur Ave has been turned into this whole outdoor dining kind of situation.
Yeah.
But, which is really pretty. It's just so different than what we're used to.
Totally.
But I'm excited to have like a space to have both my own kind of time and also social time and actually be around more than just my parents for the first time in literally, I think, 3 days from now will be my 5-month mark of being home. So
it's going to be a big shift, but I think it'll be nice. I'm excited for you. Plus, that's just like you're starting senior year. Like, obviously, circumstances are weird, but I mean, so many people are going through the same thing. I think it's just you got to make the best of it, and you're definitely going to do that. I'm excited. I can't wait to see the snaps. I saw Sid moved in.
It looks so cute.
So cute.
And she really optimized that space because when I went in, her room and my room are about the same size, and I was like, oh, I thought it was like 3 times bigger. So I had like a whole breakdown of what I needed to get and like, all that stuff. I've been on the phone like 11 times with Overstock trying to get my desk delivered. But you know what? It is what it is. Hers looks great. Mine will look great. Bella's and Catherine's look great. I can't wait to see the other girls' apartments. So.
Oh, it's going to be so fun. I can't wait to like do the snap tours. Make sure you give us a snap tour. That's all I need.
Of course.
All I need.
And then you can just come and visit when you feel comfortable.
Of course. Of course. I can't wait. I am excited because I recently did a little, it's not even that much of a splurge. KKW, we know.
Yes.
Kind of more affordable than I ever thought it was.
Really?
Like, it's not that bad. I thought it was going to be insane. I think it's very comparable to anything else you would buy, like any Urban Decay or anything else like at Ulta. It's all kind of on par. I wanted to get my sister, it was my sister's 21st birthday recently, and I got her the KKW body shimmer stuff because that's just very Sarah. So I was in like the little KKW section and I got myself a lipstick and a lip liner. It's my first lip liner moment. and I feel like it changed my life. I just feel like a brand new person. Her packaging is so cool. I'm just like such a fan. I don't know. I could go on and on, but I bring up the Kardashians specifically because, and I don't even think I said this yet, but this 2-part series that we're doing right now is kind of going to be focused around body image and just partially being girls our age and like coming of age in a time where body image was kind of talked about more than other generations, I would say, but also specifically within quarantine times. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff we can get into there. But I bring up the Kardashians to say, I think we can kind of argue both sides where like the Kardashians helped in a lot of ways because it was more inclusive and like, I don't know, the ideal body type kind of changed when they blew up, but also like waist trainers and like all the diet teas and stuff that they do is like not what we need. You know what I mean? So I just think there's so much to get into, which we definitely will next week when Emma and Hannah are here too, because we're going to do like a whole second part. But I thought that would be a good preface to say, like, I think the Kardashians are a cool thing to focus on within the body image discussion.
Wait, I'm sorry. I promise I'm listening. I was looking up one of the women who's been very outspoken about
Jamila Jamil. Is that her name?
Is it Jamila or Camila?
For some reason, I think it's a double J. I think it's Jamila Jamil.
Okay. Love her.
So, yes, I think we'll look up more for next week so that we can, like, really break it down because I think it's so fascinating.
But I totally agree with you with that. There are definitely pros and cons to both.
1,000%. So it'll be cool to break down. I'm curious what Emma has to say. I'm curious what Hannah has to say because I think we can really take it a lot of different ways. But that's just a little sneak preview of next week. So, teaser. Okay, let's move on to the R, realization. What are we realizing, Bren?
Mine is not wasting my energy and time, because time is money, on people that don't bring me happiness. I feel like I've been talking about this a lot with my mom, and as I've gotten older, I used to be I don't know how to put it. I'm a very passionate person, so I'll put my all in things, and when I don't receive the same kind of energy, it's hard, you know, to deal with and like understand. So as I've been getting older, especially in quarantine, I've realized I don't need to be putting this energy into people. Maybe it's the manifestation videos I've been watching on TikTok. Who knows? But I don't need it anymore. If I'm not getting it in return, it's just not worth my time. And you know what? Sometimes you just gotta break the mold, and it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's so true. I think like that's something I've definitely realized as I've like grown up and like gone through college especially, is like you realize that relationships take work and you don't need to put it in if other people aren't putting it in too. Like it's definitely a two-way street, and I think that gets lost a lot of the times. So I'm with you and I feel you. Mine's kind of similar actually. Mine, I wrote, living your fullest life means being your fullest self. Because I feel, and I also just had like the most epic weekend ever, surrounded by so many different groups of people who I love in like similar ways and also very different ways. I was with my high school friends one day, I was with Emma and her family the next day, then I was with my family and my sister for her 21st birthday, and I just felt like in each one of those like little pockets, I felt so free to just be like the loudest and most me version of myself. And that's such a liberating feeling. You know what I mean? Where you don't need to like tone it down. Like you are with your people. And it's so cool to be surrounded by that energy. So it feeds into what you were saying, like make your circle somewhere that you can be that version.
Yeah. And don't waste your time on people that won't allow it.
Exactly. If you're too much for them, they're not enough for you.
Exactly.
Put that in a postcard. I love it.
Get a tattoo.
Oh my God, I'm not even mad. No, I like that. All right, that was a good round. I love our reflections. Bren, you didn't come to play, and I appreciate it. Let's do a quick content catch-up. What have you been watching, reading, listening to? Anything fun you want to mention?
I love true crime, and I know that this was hard for me earlier, but then I realized that I've been spending an unhealthy amount of time kind of watching into that stuff.
Yeah.
Unsolved Mysteries, they put out, I think, a couple weeks ago. Ray Rivera, that whole situation was insane to me, and I think everything's very suspenseful, but also very heartbreaking, but also it's so interesting to see, like, you get this basic kind of look into the mystery, which are usually just unsolved murders or cold cases, but then they like they deep dive into it, and it's so interesting to see like what the motive could be, who could have done it, and all that type of stuff. And I'm sitting there in my room in the dark being like, yes, this is so cool.
Interesting. Those shows I cannot watch at night though. Like even SVU and stuff, like me and my sisters are into it, but it needs to be during the day. Otherwise it freaks me out. I can't get behind it.
I can do it right after the sun goes down, but when it hits the point of time where like it's too late to have dinner, then I'm like, whoa.
Reel it back. Like watch a lighthearted. I'm with you. No, I'm with you. But that reminds me, I just started watching a new O.J. Simpson series because I'm so obsessed. There's a series, and I don't actually know if it's new, but it's new to me. It's on Court TV. I downloaded the app for my Roku, Court TV. It's called OJ 25. I don't know what the 25 is for. I feel like I should have looked into this. I don't know if it's a 25-part series. I don't know. I'm only a couple episodes in, but it's like really a breakdown of the whole trial with like commentary and then footage, and it's just like I am eating it up. I cannot get enough OJ content. So that has really, I forgot that. I didn't even put that on the outline because I like forgot, but when you said that, I was like, OJ. And like, to be clear, I don't, like, I'm not a fan of OJ Simpson, like, use the word, but like, it's just so fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so obsessed with it.
Everything that goes into it, that it's just, you can't even put it into words.
No, I could talk about it so long. We can't because we're going to get down the rabbit hole. But I also wanted to mention this book that I'm reading that's more like, that's a book, Brennan. Like, I'm struggling. It's a really long book. I didn't realize it was this long because, like, when you buy it on Amazon, you just see the thing. I'm also mad that I bought it on Amazon because I should have, like, did it from probably a Black-owned bookstore. That would have been better, but it's too late. I'm sorry.
Next time.
So this is, I have some quotes I think about this. This is called The Warmth of Other Suns, Isabel Wilkerson, and it's a hefty book, but a good one. Let me tell you more about it. It's the epic story of America's Great Migration, and the Great Migration is the period of American history that covers the like mass movement of more than 6 million African Americans out of the rural southern United States to the urban Northeast, Midwest, and West that occurred between 1916 and 1970. So we're talking like a massive period of time, which makes sense why it has to be such a massive book. But Wilkerson kind of takes it into 3 separate stories. And in between each chapter, she'll kind of do like a very nonfiction section of like, here's historically what's happening in this moment. And then she'll go to each character that she's focusing on, which aren't characters because they're real people, but it's written very narratively, which I appreciate. So I feel like I'm learning a lot, but it doesn't read like a textbook. It reads like a narrative. So I feel like it's a cool way to learn about a period of history where like, frankly, we didn't learn about in school. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was talking to Mom about that earlier. She was like, I had no idea all of it. We were talking about Thanksgiving and kind of like how it's all based on the mass murder of the indigenous people that lived here before us and the Native Americans. And she was like, I didn't learn about that in school.
Right.
Good for you for doing the research behind the scenes.
No, I'm excited. And there's so much more like opportunity for this like self-education now, which I think is a really cool thing to witness and to be a part of. So there'll be updates to come within like many weeks that it'll take me to read this, but I think it's a good project to tackle right now. So that's my content. Okay, let's move on now to a little bit of social media. I'm calling this segment Amp It Up because we're all about amplifying positive messages in our Instagram feeds, because I think like we've been talking a lot about the shift we've seen in Instagram. It's becoming a killjoy place where there's a lot of activism, which can be like draining at times, but importantly so. So I think it's important to see it, but also it's important to keep your feed positive with other people that you're following and with positive messages. So we each picked one account that kind of speaks to this mission and helps us in our day-to-day social media habits. So do you want to kick us off? Who'd you pick?
Definitely. So I'm sorry if I like mess up her name. It's at Clara and herself. Might be pronounced Clara. I'm not positive.
Yeah.
But she is mid-20s, I would say. I think she's 24 or something, but I could be wrong. But she's very open about her mental health struggles and her recovery from an eating disorder.
Right.
And for her Instagram feed, she focuses on posting the best and the worst photos of herself from specific photo shoots, which I really appreciate, because then you can kind of dive into how when you're on social media, you only see the best version of people. And her being a skinnier girl and showing that she doesn't always look perfect is so helpful with people that struggle with their body image, that I was like, I'm here. I love it. So I followed her right away. I found her on TikTok, actually.
Cool.
Which I highly recommend anyone that uses TikTok to follow more positive things. But she does these things, like she'll hype up her followers if they send in a picture, and she also does a lot of like, this is what I look like posing, this is what I look like naturally, which is really nice to see in a time where I feel like, especially in quarantine, a lot of people have been struggling with their weight.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh, it's normal to not always look perfect.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I added 2 more. At Gibbs _ her name's Gabby. She's in college. She focuses a lot on being open about her mental health and also body image, because she's gained a lot of weight in quarantine and felt a little insecure, but she's such a boss babe, like good for her. And then Brittany Lancaster with an I. She is openly recovering from 2 separate eating disorders, but she shows what you should be eating in a day and how she's dealing with it herself, which I highly, highly recommend getting into, because at least for me, I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, I eat like a piece of gum and like consider that a meal. And it's like, no, you gotta, I know it's so hard to deal with that kind of stuff. And it's so much more than just like, oh, fix it. But it's nice to see someone trying to move past that.
Totally, especially on a platform that was known for so long to be the over-edited, like super perfection central place that we can now kind of get a more behind the scenes and a more authentic, which is helpful to real people who are on the app regardless, you know what I mean? I love that. Those are great picks. Definitely going to follow, because I don't follow any of them, but I definitely will. Thank you, Brennan.
You're welcome.
My account, I love this account so much. I'm sure, I feel like this is so your vibe. Are you following? We're not really straight.
Oh, I love them.
Such a great account. I don't remember when I first found it. It's a very RA kind of vibe. I'm going to explain it, but I did a little bit more research about the founder, the creator and CEO of We're Not Really Strangers. Her name is Kareen Odini. Sorry, Kareen Odini. And she's just, first of all, she's like the most gorgeous person I've ever seen, because I looked up all these videos. She's been on a lot of podcasts. She was on Bryce Vine's podcast, which didn't know Bryce Vine had a podcast / YouTube series. And I was like, what a cool Fordham overlap moment from Spring Weekend.
Bryce Vine ignored my DM from Spring Weekend. I was so offended.
Bryce Vine answered my DM from Spring Weekend. Do you remember that?
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
That was a big moment.
Love story.
What a day. Bryce Vine is like one of the coolest people.
Yeah.
All right.
He's also extremely handsome.
He just is. Like, he's very cool. But isn't he also like over 40? Like, he's older than we think he is.
Is he actually?
I don't know. In my mind, definitely. No, I'm pretty sure that's a fact. Wait,
I do remember him being older than we assumed, because I think he came out on stage and I was like, oh, this man is definitely like 25. And it was like, no.
I totally lied. He's 32.
He's definitely older than I expected, though.
I thought he was 40. I'm sorry, Bryce Vine. I'm going to edit that. For some reason, I thought I don't know. Whatever.
Maybe it was the time, like, you were like, oh, he's a lot older than we expected.
Right. Because you think he's going to be like a 21-year-old guy, and then he comes out and he's like a decade older than anybody there.
Who was it? Wheathen? Wheathen?
I don't know. I always said Wheathen. I left after. Yeah.
But he was young, wasn't he?
He was young. I think he was like young.
We all were kind of like, oh, we all just.
The discrepancy was big.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Kareen was on his show, so that's how I got a little bit more background on her. She's stunning, but that's not the point. She has a background in photojournalism, which makes a lot of sense if you know her page. She does a lot of artsy edits where she's putting these super inspirational and thought-provoking messages, like superimposed over street signs and just like very everyday things. So it's like a reminder in your day-to-day is the kind of vibe of the page. Would you say? I don't know.
Definitely.
Okay. So that's her vibe, photojournalism background, which makes a lot of sense because she's always been fascinated by people's stories and the aspects of life that bring us together. Like we have more in common than we think we do. So she founded this card game. That's how it started, with all these insightful questions. Yeah. And the Instagram kind of happened after that. But first it was just this card game of there's different phases where you kind of get deeper and deeper. It reminds me of that 36 questions to fall in love kind of thing. Do you remember that when that was like very popular? So it reminds me of that kind of thing where there's like phases and you kind of get deeper and deeper. And she would set up these card games like in random. I remember there's all these videos on it, like on Reddit.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now.
Set up these card games in random places and have two strangers sit down and go through the whole card game, and then to like watch the evolution of these two strangers like making a relationship of like all different ages and ethnicities and everything. Like it was so just cool to see. I don't know. Look up the video if you haven't. We'll definitely link it because it's so cool.
Was it the one where it was the two men and they were sitting talking and the guy was like, oh, where do you live? And he was actually homeless and he was like, you're sitting in it.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I think that was the same thing because it's like she always does a red table and then there's the red card game thing on top. It's like very striking. So that's where it started. And she founded that to empower people to make meaningful connections. That was kind of the whole thing. And then the Instagram started, so she got a lot more traction. And now it's like super viral. I think everyone, like I knew you were following her because everybody's following her. Like it's a big thing. I want to give you a little bit more of the vibe. So like I sent a post to Emma the other day. One of her posts said, pay attention to who you're with when you feel your best. Like that's just cute. And it makes you think and you're like, that's a good thing to keep in the back of your mind. Shout out Emma. Oh, I love her. She also posts really helpful Twitter threads like mental health reminders, signs you're in a toxic relationship, how to say no with love, all things like that where you're swiping through and you're like, oh my God, this is just hit. I feel like you find them when you need them too. Like there's something about it when you're like scrolling through and it just hits you. They're very repostable, but in like a great way where you're like sharing this little nugget of truth. Oh, it's so beautiful. I love the page. I have a quote from her on the power of social media. She said, quote, I want you to come on the Instagram page and see something that's going to make you feel better afterwards. If you go on to one of the We're Not Really Strangers posts, know that it's going to be about something I'm currently going through. And hopefully you will feel less alone because I'm being honest about it, or it's a question that you can reflect on with yourself. So it really does come back to this place of we're all kind of going through it, especially in times like these. And there's a lot of common ground that we can kind of experience together. And there's a beautiful kind of solidarity in that. And I just love the page. I really encourage anybody to go follow because there's no reason not to like it. I think it's great. So not exactly body image focus specifically, but definitely important messaging, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely mental health wise too, to be able to kind of
totally
find a connection with someone else instead of feeling like you're completely alone. It's also kind of like it gives me a more like one-on-one version of almost like Humans of New York in the sense of being able to open up and talk about things. I love that.
Totally. It's funny that you said that she referenced Humans of New York in one of her interviews that I watched. I don't know if it was the Bryce Vine one. She sat down with her boyfriend who has a podcast at one point, and they had a whole one. So I was like watching a lot of her videos, and it's just cool to watch her talk about it. I encourage you to do that too, because she's just very eloquent in the way she describes her mission. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing from like a girl our age, because she's definitely in her 20s too. Like it's cool that she's built this whole thing and has become a viral sensation. It's a cool mixing of like what we were talking about before, where like social media can be the worst, you know what I mean? Because it's like so not real life, but then making it super, super real life. So there's a very cool kind of back and forth we're seeing. And I think all of our picks from this section definitely reflect that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. She's a boss babe is what she is.
She just is. Oh my God, I'm such a fan. Okay, now let's get into a little bit more of the inspiration behind today's episode, because it was 1,000% your idea. I'm going to give you the backstory of how this interaction between Brennan and I went down. So I said before that I went to a pool party with friends from high school. So this is my first bathing suit event of the summer, which like anxiety. Like it's just not, I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just
no,
not.
I totally get what you mean. I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? So it was a couple days before I was gonna go, and I was trying on my bathing suit because I wanted to get like my whole outfit together and like the cover-up situation. Like I just wanted to have it like set so I'd be ready for Friday. I was excited, but also like wanted to like feel confident, whatever. So I'm literally just sitting in my bedroom in my bathing suit, and I sent you a Snapchat that was something like, oh my God, I wonder what it's like to actually feel totally confident when you like have a bikini on. Like I wonder what that's like, because I've never felt that. You know what I mean? I feel like no matter who you are, there's something about you can definitely focus on like the negative, the things you don't like about your body. So then you were like, oh my God, this would be a great idea. So tell me more. Like, tell me more about when you like got that snap. Like, where did your mind go? How did we get from there to here? Tell me.
I have a funny story, kind of. I was literally sitting on the toilet. You know when you like pee and then you just sit there for like an hour on your phone?
Yeah.
That's what I was in the midst of doing. But I literally, it's so true. I feel like everyone is definitely insecure, but I feel like for women it's kind of amplified because we're convinced that we have to fit this specific standard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, whether or not that's true, it's just so ingrained in our minds that it's always there. Whatever you're wearing, whatever you're doing, it's always there.
Mm-hmm.
And I have struggled with my weight and my body image for years. And my friends and I, we've always talked about how great you always look. Like, toned or not, like, you always look amazing. And then you saying that is just...
Oh my god, do you mean me?
Yeah, you!
Oh my god! I thought it was like a general you, like all women are beautiful.
You!
Stop!
We've never told you that?
No!
Oh my gosh, stop.
Wait, I kind of feel like this is so emotional for me right now.
Oh,
thank you for saying that.
oh. Kath and I not last semester, in the fall, you would Snapchat us all the time in these cute outfits, and we're always like, how does she always look that good? Like, what the heck? While we're sitting there in sweatpants, eating the third batch of brownies we made for the week.
The kitchens, man. Like, CSC will get you. I get it.
No, I mean it. Seriously.
That's really sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome. But you always just got to remember, like, what you find the most insecure in yourself is probably something someone else is dying to have. And so when you said that, I was like, this would be such a great idea, because the way you view yourself is so different from what everyone else views you as, you and you
right.
as the general population. And I mean, I know the same is for myself. Like, I'm constantly insecure. But my mom sent me this post, which coincidentally I had no idea. I was telling her about this earlier tonight, and I was like, this quote, and she was like, I sent you that. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
I quote.
But the quote is, confidence isn't walking into a room thinking you're better than everyone. It's walking in not having to compare yourself to anyone at all. And I felt like that was just so striking, because
so good.
I never want to like talk down to another woman or like try and like pick apart what her like bad qualities might be, because that's so bad to do. We're all supposed to be uplifting each other. But I do it to myself constantly. If I walk into a room, I'm like, my butt doesn't look that good. My waist doesn't look that good. My hair, like the stupidest things that's not even a word, but like the dumbest things that other people don't even care about, like, is what you're worried about. I just think it's so telling, especially just like in the society that we live in, how you compare yourself to others and everyone else is doing the same thing. So it's very interesting to see that kind of like dichotomy, but it's also something like, once you realize it, it's very helpful, not even just for how you look, but how you feel.
Yeah.
Which is the most important part.
Yeah, I think like totally like coming to the realization and like really believing it, that everyone's going through it, and like we all kind of, everyone's going to feel inferior in some way at some point, and a lot of the times, especially for women, it's going to be because of how we see ourselves in the mirror. You know what I mean? So I think having discussions like this one opens the door for me, and I'm like, whenever I have a thought that I'm like, oh, I hate this, and this, it's like, but remember, like, we are always our own biggest critics.
Exactly.
And I don't know if that was always the case. Like, I think there was definitely a time before us, like maybe when social media was like first becoming a thing, where people were very critical. And I think we watched that as like Gen Z, maybe. Like, if we're even going to break it down as like a millennial versus Gen Z, I think that might be fair to say, where like millennials kind of got the brunt of it, of like everyone being hypercritical, and social media really starting to be a place where you needed to be the most perfect version of yourself, and that's kind of where it all began. So we watched that, we were like, oh my god, like I better get it together, like everyone's going to be judging me. Meanwhile, in like the world, we're kind of becoming more accepting, you know what I mean? And people are talking about it more, and then you have figures like Lizzo now, who are like,
love her.
phenomenal. Do you know what I'm saying? Who are really just changing the game and making everything okay, because it was always okay, but like shouting it from the rooftops. So we have that in the back of our minds, but I think all of those things that were ingrained when we were growing up are still very much there. So I think like girls our age are existing at such a weird and complicated time, where it's like, we know that we should love ourselves so much, and it doesn't matter how we look, and like we should just be confident, and it's gonna be great, and like we're all beautiful in our own ways. Like, we know that, but we also like have all of that ingrained. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
it's like you want to be okay, but then there's always like this idea that you could never actually be perfectly happy with it. In a way.
Yes. No, I totally feel it's so fascinating. I don't know. It's just, it's cool to see. And I think I'm glad we're starting. Like I said, next week we're going to get very much like deeper into it. I think there's a lot we can break down about a lot of different things. I just kind of wanted to get our feet wet a little bit and start the discussion because I think there's just so much to get into.
Mm-hmm. There's so much.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
Do we have any like closing? I feel like this like went by so fast. I'm like, are we really done? Like, I don't know what time it is. I feel like we're kind of.
It's been like a little less than an hour.
Yeah, so we're like
getting there.
This is part 1. Like, here it is. Any like closing remarks, main takeaways from today, or like things you're excited about next week? Like, what's in your mind right now? How do you feel?
I'm excited for next week. I'm excited to talk to everyone. I feel like you and I have been in a lot of contact, but I really haven't talked to Emma or Hannah in so long that I'm excited. And I'm excited to see all the different takes on it. You know?
Me too. Because even since we started, like, this episode, I was like, oh my God, I didn't think of that. And like, oh yes, I said. Like, I feel like the things I thought I was going to say when we got to this, like, what inspired this episode section have changed since we started talking. You know what I mean? So I think when we get their takes, it's going to be very cool. And then we'll do more research. I want to get into the Jamila Jamil stuff because I think there's a lot to break down there. And yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited. Okay. I feel like we're talking in circles now, but I'm so excited. Thank you so much. Let me do my sign off thing. Hang on.
Of course.
The new thing we're doing. This was so good. I feel like it went so fast. Okay. All right. That's all we got. Bren, thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited to have you next week. Like I said, join us next Sunday for part 2. We're going to be joined by Emma and Hannah for a full breakdown of body image in the times of quarantine. We're talking body, baby. We're talking body. If you like what you're hearing, make sure to follow us on Spotify or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, please feel free to rate, review, subscribe, like all of that stuff. Do it all. That'd be great. You can also find us on Instagram at h.e.r.LIFE. We do IGTV. We do little snippets. We're doing it all. We're doing it all. For blog posts, you can go to h.e.r.life.online. And for behind the scenes videos of recordings like this one, just search Rachel Malik on YouTube and you'll find my channel. Subscribe there too if you feel like it. Okay, that's all I got. Brennan, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I'm Rachel Malik. This has been the Her Life BLOGCAST.